Yo, what's going on, my people? My name is Daniel Tiluk. This is Talking Tactics Daily. Remember to check the actual podcast, Talking Tactics Podcast, wherever you listen to podcasts on Spotify, Apple Podcasts. Check us out on Patreon if you want to support the pod. In that way, myself, Have Hope of the Have Hope Football Hut, and Carl Anka of the Athletic. Today, I'm just going to talk about three games, so maybe we're in here 20 minutes, if that. Chelsea played Charlton in the FA Cup. By the way, I don't have a picture for this because I don't really think it's really worth discussing that serious. However, Manchester City beaten, was it Exeter 10-1. The FA Cup goes like that. You can have a Man City result where they beat somebody 10-1, and then you can have Macclesfield beating Crystal Palace. So, the magic of the FA Cup, I suppose, is alive and well. But there's also the beatdown of the FA Cup. And Manchester City kind of worked some issues out. Maybe they took out some anger over there on Exeter. So, yeah, 10-1's pretty bad. Chelsea got halfway there against Charlton, and Liam Rosenior. I'm going to be so self-conscious about how you pronounce this name. It's not Roy Senior. I know that's how people pronounce it. It's Rosenior. Rosenior. So it's going to take some time to get used to because anyone familiar with English football, at least a little bit, would know his dad. They'd remember him playing. So, yeah, Rosenior. So it was Rosenior's debut, his maiden Chelsea match. I think the Chelsea hierarchy did him a favor. Instead of playing Fulham, which would have been a little bit more difficult, Craven Cottage, West London Derby, they played it smart and decided to give him an easier game, even if away, in the FA Cup. And I guess it worked. Chelsea went ahead 1-0 through Hato. Then it was halftime, and at halftime, it's like, okay, 1-0. Chelsea find the second goal, and you're okay. They find a little bit of stability. Then Charlton get 2-1, and you're like, here we go again. Perhaps, like, you can't lose your debut, especially when your debut has been set up in the way that it was set up. But Chelsea find three more goals later on. Esteval wins a penalty at the very end of the game, which Enzo Fernandez calmly makes. I think the interesting thing that comes out of this game for me when I was watching it was the boisterousness of the Chelsea away fans was quite evident. And also there was chance for Roman Abramovich and F word Begdad Egbali, who is the principal face of the Clear Lake capital. And it seems that Todd Bowley was the front-facing person when the takeover happened, post invasion of Ukraine, and everyone who has ties to Putin in the UK having to let go of their assets. Chelsea Football Club was kind of affected by that. And once it went through the process of being sold, Todd Bowley was the primary guy that people were pointing at, saying this is the guy that's making decisions. It's Todd Bowley's Chelsea. And I think that was true for a year, maybe two, but this is now, we're coming on year 3, or maybe even year 4. That was 2020, May of 22, was it? I think it was May of 22. So we're coming on year 4. And Todd Bowley, I think in many Chelsea's fans' estimation, is not a key player in the way that we thought that he might have been. It's been clearly, I say clearly because then Clear Lake, but it's been kind of worked out that Todd Bowley is part of the ownership group. And his money certainly helped secure Chelsea, and maybe his sporting background of being involved with the Los Angeles Lakers and the NBA and the Los Angeles Dodgers and Major League Baseball, just his American sports background perhaps help get Chelsea's proposal off the line. I think is the phrase I'm looking for, or off the ground. But Clear Lake Capital are the ones who are running the show here. And maybe they let Todd Bowley run it for a little bit. But the moment that they felt it wasn't going in the right direction, whether with Potter or whomever, they've taken it over. Let me put it that way. And for the Chelsea away fans to say F the guy who's principally in charge, I think is a big step. Whether that step is in the right direction, I don't know, because I don't see an obvious buyer for Chelsea Football Club out there somewhere. So there'd have to be some sort of next consortium that comes either from somewhere else in Europe, somewhere in England. I don't know if anybody has that much money, somewhere in the so-called Middle East, the Arab world. Maybe there's another American group out there that could, but like it would be more of the same. I don't think there's no Abramovich type billionaire out there, I don't think, who's willing to take billions of their own money and buy a football club and just to have it as a toy, effectively. What these guys are up to is using other people's money, money that they've secured through their own partnerships and relationships, using other people's money to make more money. This isn't a luxury that they're up to. This is firmly a business. And Abramovich didn't run the club like that for 2 decades. He ran it as, this isn't necessarily to make money. Of course, making money if it succeeds, it will make money. But making money isn't my primary motive here. The same can't be said for Clear Lake Capital. So that's why I think Rosenior is in an interesting place, because he's quite clearly the face of Blue Co. and their operation and their model. And it's going to be within the heart of most Chelsea fans to want to give him a chance. They're going to want to put as much faith as they can in him. But when it's been made so obvious that he's there, but he's like a Trojan horse of a manager. Like he exists, but he's hollowed out. In the sense, like, are the decisions that we're seeing on the pitch, are they his decisions, or is this kind of a group work? Is it a team project that he's just the front face of? And I don't think a lot of people are really on board with the idea of somebody coming into their club who's nominally supposed to be making all of the decisions, who you ask him a question, him or her, a question in a press conference, and they give an answer, and you don't know fully if what they're saying is from their own mouth, from the mouth or mind of people above them. Like, are you speaking for yourself, or is there somebody in your body making your mouth move as if a puppet? So again, it's a good start. Of course, you want to win. 5-1 is a great result, but Chelsea are not going to be judged by the third round of the FA Cup, nor is Rosenior going to be judged by the third round of the FA Cup against Charlton. Shout out to Charlton. They made it interesting, at least when they got to 2-1. But he's going to be judged on, can Chelsea secure Champions League football? Can they progress deep into the Champions League? And can he create a feeling that distances himself from ownership without causing trauma, which effectively ends his own managerial or head coaching tenure? Can you do that? Is that possible? Can a Blue Co manager separate themselves in the eyes of the fans from being a yes man without at the same time engendering the kind of the ire from board level that would then make them go seek a more favorable yes man? That's his task. On top of winning, on top of all the football things, there's a perception. Now, the perception will be largely dictated by the football things, but he's talented, I think, on the mic. I don't think Chelsea have had a better person on the mic since Jose Mourinho. When I think of all the managers that they've hired, Nobody's been that good in the press conference. Not even Frank Lampard. You can go through all of them. I've done it. Conte wasn't that good on the mic. Sarri wasn't that good on the mic. Poch weren't that good on the mic. Ancelotti wasn't that good on the mic. Jose Mourinho is the last one who you listen to the press conference and you're like, I believe in that guy. I like that guy. He makes me believe. The other coaches, it's more what they do on the pitch makes you believe. I think Rosenior, trying not to say Roy Senior, he's going to have to talk his way. Whether or not he believes it, he's going to have to speak his way into some form of kind of good graces. Because again, he's behind an 8 ball with, I think, where the fans are relative to ownership. And he's clearly an owner guy, an ownership person. And it's, as I say, it's a sticky place to be. But we'll see how it progresses. But, you know, winning your debut will never hurt. Certainly not 5-1. Even if 5-1 was a bit flattering to Chelsea. Gittins had a good game. I'll put that. Gittins had his one good game. But is your standard Charlton, Jamie? Is it? That's the other thing about the FA Cup. I know I clicked on AFCON, but when players have good games against, you know, League One, League Two, Championship opposition, it's like, yeah, you're supposed to have a good game against those people. In fact, are you showing that this is where you belong? So that's the dangerous part about playing. I should also point out, I don't think that the team that Rosenior picked is indicative of where he's going to be going in League or Champions League. I think an FA Cup third round match is a chance to rotate the team. So maybe some of these players will be featured more heavily in starting 11s. But that's why I think it's a good thing that Esteval didn't start, because maybe that means Rosenior is looking at him as a starter. But at the same time, is he even picking the teams? I don't know if he's picking the teams. Like, is this him, or was this 11 dictated to him and then the next one will be dictated to him? I don't know. Let's get to AFCON. I've clicked the thing. We didn't tape yesterday, which was unfortunate, but I woke up at a bad time. I didn't get to watch mostly any of the games except through highlights, so it would have been quite fake for me to come on here and discuss the games with any level of seriousness. Senegal beat Mali by 1 goal yesterday, and the other semifinal was Morocco, who finally played well. People were asking, when is Morocco finally going to step up and play well? Yesterday was Morocco's game, and so now Morocco are in the semifinal at home. Their tournament is not as disgusting as what Côte d'Ivoire did last year or last AFCON, where, I mean, they qualified, I think, with 2 points from the group stage, sacked their manager mid-tournament, and figured out a way to get through, and then kind of built momentum. I think Morocco has certainly been better than Ivory Coast through the group stage and in their first 2 knockout matches. But they weren't wholly convincing, and I could have talked myself into Cameroon beating them, certainly. And Cameroon, I think, outperformed themselves in terms of the team that was constructed. I think they did better than most people thought, and that's a promising sign heading into Pajoma, which is the AFCON that's to be hosted by Kenya, Tanzania, and my people in Uganda. I hope to go. Like, I'm lining up to go to Uganda for AFCON 27. Now, obviously, it could be in 28, depending on when. But so the next AFCON, I want to go see some games. We'll be there at the Nelson Mandela National Stadium, Nambole. For those who know, in Kampala, maybe I might try to go to Nairobi. Who knows? It depends on how much money is in my pockets at the time. But So Cameroon, I think, are setting themselves up for that tournament and World Cup qualification for 2020. What's the next one? 2030. Jeez. The next World Cup is going to be in 2030. All around the world, isn't it? And then 2034 is going to be in Saudi Arabia. So in any event, so Senegal went through and Morocco went through, but they're not playing each other. They were going to play the winners of the games that happened today. We're going to start with Nigeria against Algeria. So the battle of the Algerias, Ni versus Al. Nigeria beat the brakes off Algeria. I'm sorry. There's questions about the referee. I'm sure if I was Algerian, I'd be a bit questioning about, like, who is this dude? The first 6 decisions of the game, 4, 5, 6 decisions of the game just went in Nigeria's favor. And I was like, oh, wow, this is very interesting. I know we're on Moroccan soil, but don't make it this obvious. Like, if you don't want them in the semifinal, cool. If you don't want to play Algeria in the semis, Morocco, don't make it this obvious. At the same time, it doesn't matter. It didn't matter who the referee was. The referee could have been from Algeria. I don't think there's any way that Nigeria weren't winning that game. It was a lie that the halftime score was 0-0 because Nigeria have been playing excellently this tournament. I again want to shout out Alex Iwobi, who's been fire throughout the whole tournament. I want Iwobi to have what John Obi Mikel got when Nigeria last won the Cup of Nations. I want him to have that feeling of, yeah, your career in many ways has been a disappointment to many Nigerians. But at this, meaning your club career, you haven't maybe lived up to the potential that people thought you were going to have at the beginning. But you can at least give us, the fatherland, that one good feeling in terms of winning an AFCON. And I feel like Mikel has, in retrospect, has gotten a lot from that AFCON win. And I want Iwobi to be similar. Now, it's different because, Iwobi is playing with monsters in Ademola Lookman, Victor Osimhen. Like, there are serious guys on this team, which make you question how in God's name did this team miss out on the World Cup. They've been the best team at this AFCON, bar none. They've beaten everyone they've played, battered them. And whether it was Algeria or DRC, I think Nigeria were certainly making the semifinals today. The goal that Osimhen scored was perfectly timed. It was just after halftime, because you could see a game that Nigeria have been playing for a long time, where they dominate possession, they have the better of the chances, but they don't score for whatever reason, and then they just allow teams that are not on their level on that day. Not that Algeria isn't on Nigeria's level, of course they are, but today they were not. And allowing them to score first, and now Nigeria are chasing a game that would have been a disservice to the 90 minutes or at least the 45 minutes they played in the first half. So coming out very early and scoring was perfect. Even the player who assisted Victor Osimhen was good because he was the catalyst of the argument that Osimhen and Lookman had in the Mozambique game. So it was good to see, the moment of the team being together. And obviously it's easier to be together when you're winning. It's a little bit more challenging to be together when things are going badly, as it did during their World Cup qualifying campaign. And then the second goal comes for Akor Adams, who, again, has also been good. He's played a perfect second fiddle or third fiddle, you might say, behind Lookman and Osimhen. And, yeah, Nigeria were they felt imperious. And maybe that's more Algeria playing into their hands, not playing a striker for a majority of the game. I'll have to go watch what my homie Maher Mazahi says about this game, because he has to have at least 10 minutes on Algeria's tactics and them not playing a striker. So as soon as I finish this, I'm gonna go watch. But I could just imagine him just being like, but no, Algeria, you have a World Cup to worry about. Nigeria, this is it. This is their prime time of 2026. And I think they're in a decent position to give Morocco a really, really tough run. And it's been highly unfortunate for Nigeria that in their last two Africa Cup of Nations, they come against Ivory Coast in a final away in Ivory Coast. And now they're playing a semifinal against Morocco, also a home nation. So they just can't, they're not getting it easy, but in this competition, there's no easy game, certainly after the round of 16. To that, Egypt, who I thought were in a similar vein to Morocco, if I'm honest, doing enough to win, but not being convincing in their winning. And Ivory Coast, I thought, played a really good tournament up until this point. Not as good as Algeria and Nigeria, but in that level below, close to Cameroon, but maybe in a bracket with Senegal, where you've impressed, but there's still some meat on the bone that you're not finding, and you just need to find that next gear if you have it. And it's unfortunate for Ivory Coast that they don't really have the number 9 that we're used to seeing them with, and primarily in my mind is Wilfred Bony, DJ Drogba. Obviously, they don't have one of those, so the chances a lot of times aren't falling to the right players, and they've just been quite fortunate that, I mean, Amad Diallo has been crazy in this AFCON. So yeah, it's unfortunate that his tournament ends here. I'd have liked to watch him again, maybe in the third place game, because when he plays for Ivory Coast, I mean, he's a beautiful player to watch. At the same time, Egypt did what they had to do. They came out and they punched Ivory Coast in the mouth early. They scored 1-0 very, very quickly out the gate. And from there, it just set the tone for the game, where Ivory Coast were trying to break them down. And that's what Egypt want to do. They want to defend and they want to counter. Defend and use the pace of Marmoush, Salah, the other homie whose name I can't pronounce. That's what they want to do. And they were able to do that. They got up 3-1. Ivory Coast found a late goal, but there just wasn't enough time left for Ivory Coast to do enough. And it sets up, because I'm conscious of the clock. I said I wasn't going to be in here 20 minutes. It sets up the games, at least one of the games that we all want to watch, which is Senegal against Egypt. Mane has gotten the upper hand on Salah the last 2 times they've played meaningful matches, I want to say. The AFCON final that Senegal won is at 2023, AFCON 23. And no, AFCON 23 was the last one, wasn't it? That was 21. Man, time goes. Because Ivory Coast was obviously AFCON 23 that happened in 2024. And then the one before that was Senegal's. And the World Cup qualification, Senegal got the better of Egypt there for Qatar. So Mane is up, but Salah has his get back, and they have to go through. I don't know how many times Salah's gonna have to win this thing. He's 2 wins away now, and again, there's no easy games. They're making you play if you're Egypt, Ivory Coast, Senegal, and then either Nigeria or Morocco. Nigeria, who are the best team in this tournament on based on their performances, and then Morocco, who are the home nation. And obviously there's rivalry between Egypt and Morocco. There's rivalry between all the North African teams, as there is rivalries between all the West African, East African, South African teams. But you don't want to play Morocco at home, or you don't want to play Morocco away if you're Egypt. And Morocco at home is just going to be a very, very tough out. So this tournament has been one of chalk, as we say in the United States, which is, I say we in the United States, disgusting. As they say in the United States, whenever you're filling out a bracket and you just pick number one seed, the best teams have won. And there's been very few upsets. Maybe you would call Egypt beating Ivory Coast an upset, maybe, but they're on a relative even par, or they're par. Even and par, I feel like is redundant. So, I got Senegal and Morocco correct, but I missed on Nigeria and Egypt. So, my predictions for Wednesday's games, I think I'll save them. I want to think about it a little bit more, but those are two very interesting ties. There's a lot of narrative to be had there, and I think it's a credit to African football that the tournament has been played on great pitches in decent environments. Certainly, as we've gotten into the knockout rounds, the football has been very good, high quality, and then the narratives that go are even better in some cases. So, thank you guys for paying attention. Tomorrow, we got Real Madrid against Barcelona in the Spanish Super Cup. If you care about Super Cups, Spain do, so I guess we do. And I think Napoli play Inter, so that could be an interesting match. Not could be, will be an interesting match at the top of Serie A. So I'll get out of here. Just one last word, bro. Blessings to this guy, because you're gonna need it. You're gonna need it, my light-skinned brother. You're gonna need it. Remember to listen to the Talking Texas podcast wherever you get podcasts, on Spotify, Apple Podcasts. We're there. Myself, Have Hope, and Carl Anka every week. So yeah, we will see you guys. Hopefully, we'll see you guys tomorrow.